You are very welcome back to the channel. Today I am at Magheradroll Old Church and Graveyard. So come on with me as we see around this fascinating place and I share some of the local history. I'm going through some of these big tall pillars. I've got a story about them and I'll return to that a little later in the video. So come on with me as we open this gate and inspect the beautiful surroundings. I think in 2017 the local historical society, they did a lot of work clearing the vegetation and opening this place, documenting some of the history, and it is absolutely wonderful to walk around and to learn a little bit more about this old precious place. I'm just off the Crabtree road between Drummoness and Ballynahinch in County Down in Northern Ireland. It's a beautiful February day. The dark days of December and winter are behind us and we're now looking forward to having new life and beautiful sunshine as the days get much longer and we can enjoy life again here in the Atlantic weather of Northern Ireland. So come on with me as we first see the church ruins. Now, what does the term Magheradroll means? Well, it's a place name. It's from the ancient Gaelic and it essentially means the plain between the river forks. So either side of us would be the beginning of some river estuaries, and this is where the fork is. This is where many years ago there was a Christian settlement built here for the local people to come and worship. These old ruins here date back to 1607, and the most interesting story about them is they were used for joint worship services. The services were kept separate, but the building was used jointly. So from 1607 the Church of Ireland adherents would use it for their worship, and also the Roman Catholics would use it on the same day. The Roman Catholics would meet at 9 AM for their service, and then again the Church of Ireland would come separately and they would come at 11:30. So come on with me as we go through the archway here into the church ruins. Now obviously it's discontinued and has been for a long time. What usually happens here is if you go somewhere like Grey Abbey in County Down or any other old ruins, you'll see very prominent families will have nabbed the inside of the church and they'll have used it to bury their own dead, with tombs and graves and other markers. Almost every square inch inside the old church ruins is taken up for burial space. So come on with me as we go up here. I don't know if you've seen that as we walk down the video, but there is one grave that has been used in the last couple of years. Other than that, it tends to be a closed off graveyard, so it's not really open for any more burials unless there's long-standing family burial ground. And you can see the old iron railings here, and there would have been the old stained glass windows from many years ago, and every square inch has been taken up. Okay, so as I said before, Roman Catholics would come from 1607. They would have their service at 9 AM and the Church of Ireland would come at 11:30 and they would worship here. So it was used jointly before both congregations and both people groups were able to have their own worship place. The church here was no longer in use by the Church of Ireland adherents, and they used it up until 1772, and then the Roman Catholics finally abandoned the place for their own chapel in Ballynahinch, and that was in 1808. Very lovely place to come, and you can see many of the tombstones and grave markers all around are were jointly used by both religious groups. The earliest grave dates back to 1607, the same year as the church ruins here, but actually from historical records we can see this was used for Christian settlement and Christian worship even earlier, back until 1292 at least. So even before these ruins was an earlier church. You can see there's a lovely marker there, Mr. James McGee, who died 45 years of age. That must have been maintained by someone and cleaned out. You can see all the beautiful snowdrops. My friend, there's just Ballynahinch in the distance. Just beneath Ballynahinch you've got these snowdrops. My friend Crawling on YouTube, big supporter. Thank you to Crawling. Please do subscribe to his channel. Around this time of year he always reminds us of the new life that is coming. Those dark days of December and January are now behind us and we look forward to the spring weather. We can see the flowers starting to bud and we can see the reminder of life that grows again. There's some old iron railings that have had ash trees grow up all around them. There's a marker, you can pause the video and read that if you want. And as we go a little bit further, because of the demand during around the Victorian times, or even earlier than that, there would have been body snatchers, believe it or not. And it's believed that this here entranceway was constructed so that almost as a watchtower to ward off potential body snatchers, and people could station here to make sure their beloved and recently the bereaved families could protect the bodies from body snatchers. That's an interesting one. So they would have been stationed just up there. As we go a little bit further here, you can see, I want to show you a few things before I conclude the video. You can see an old mausoleum. I'm not quite sure which family it relates to, but it's a grand old, more enhanced than a graveyard, or more enhanced than a grave memorial or a tombstone marker. One of these big old stone work buildings where families would have been able to bury their dead. I'm sure some very prominent person, some very prominent family wanted to use this. Not obvious who it is anymore. I want to show you this grave marker here. In fact, both of these, you can see they've been very well maintained. Someone must have, the Historical Society or someone, a descendant of the family, must have maintained that. So you can pause the video there and see. Look at that one there. There's Roger Ard of Magheradroll, acknowledging the memory of his son Hugh. And you can pause the video there and read that. Look at the slate there. Very well maintained. And I want to show you a couple more grave markers here. Very, very well maintained. Big tree right beside Arthur Hill's father, John Hill. This one here is very interesting. This one here is commemorating a pastor or a minister. Let's have a read. It's actually, just before we read it, I think it's an old Egyptian obelisk. You can pause the video there and you read that yourself. It says, erected in memory of the Reverend Isaac Mack by members of Groomsport Presbyterian Church who founded the church. He was a same pastor for 30 years. He died in July 1877, aged 59 years. Very, very interesting. And then we can go over here. What is very noticeable about all these graveyards is two things. First thing is all the poignant references to never forgetting the memory of deceased loved ones and a beloved parent or wife or husband or child, and how the first thing is you always are struck by how memorable the wording is, never to forget. The ironic thing is 100 years later the iron railings are rusting, it's overgrown, and those same promises to never forget are indeed no longer kept. That's interesting. As the generations spring up, we tend to forget who your ancestors were. Most people can't go back 3 or 4 generations. It's always very noticeable when you come to places like this. Nice place to come to reflect, not well advertised at all. Hopefully this video makes more people aware of it. So Magheradroll, Old Church and Graveyard here on the Crabtree Road between Ballynahinch and Drummoness. If you've enjoyed the video, please do subscribe for more. Please do like it. That helps push the video out, helps the channel grow as well. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy this fine February weather over and out wherever you are.